how do you figure out who to invite to your wedding? And maybe more importantly, who not to invite. Maybe you have a parent wanting someone to come who you've never even met or wish you never did. Maybe you and your fiance have a few people on your maybe list that you can't seem to get on the same page about. If you haven't done so yet, your first step is to click subscribe right now. Let's get down to it. Today we're talking about one of the things I know some of my couples have had a really tough time with in the past, deciding who to invite to your wedding and also deciding who not to invite. So we're going to start with what I think should be a little bit easier. Who should not be invited to your wedding? First, exes, either of yours. There's no reason to make the day any more emotional than it already is by including the emotional baggage that exes bring. Honestly, if you're getting married, you should be fully committed to your new relationship in a way that makes it easy to not include exes in your big day. 2, people you've never met in real life. In today's world, it's actually possible that you have people that you feel friendly with that you haven't met in person. And I'm telling you, if you plan to invite them to your wedding, meet them in person first. You don't want any horror stories about what someone did at your wedding that surprised you or shocked you because you never met them before that day. Your wedding day is not the day to meet new people. There's one potential exception here: the dates of your friends and family. Third, friends of either of your parents. This one can be tricky. Parents often feel like your wedding celebration is their accomplishment in raising you to be someone that someone else wants to marry. And while that may be true, you need to be careful to advocate for yourself and make sure the group of your guests is comprised of the people you both want to be there. When your group skews older with a bunch of people you don't know, it can really change things. Think carefully about what you agree to along these lines and consider setting a specific guest number limit with each of your parents so they prioritize who they try to include. Fourth, all of your coworkers. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't invite any coworkers, but I am saying there is no need to include all of them. It's rare that anyone wants to feel like their wedding is like a day at work, and if you include all of your colleagues, there's potential for that to happen. Carefully select those colleagues which you feel close enough to that you want them to be at your wedding, and then consider this question: if you didn't work there any longer, would you remain friends with these people? If so, include them. If not, skip it and don't feel bad about it. Fifth, anyone you're not fairly certain that you want to remain friends with. I always say weddings bring out a special kind of crazy in people, from the great aunt who suddenly decides she wants to have input in your menu selections, to that best friend who you didn't realize was your best friend, whose feelings are hurt when you don't ask them to be in your wedding party. It can be a good idea to take some time after announcing your engagement to let the dust settle a little before officially starting to invite people, or even verbally confirming that they're invited, and go with that. Side note with a bonus tip: the moment you get engaged, there are people who will ask if they're going to be invited to your wedding. I know, so rude. This is not a question people should be asking, but if they do, remember this response: we're still working on planning our guest list, so we don't know who we can include just yet. Are there exceptions to these guidelines of who to include? Sure, maybe. I can't say for sure who you should include and shouldn't include, but I can tell you from lots of experience that these guidelines are helpful and you should at least consider them when making your guest list. As with most parts of wedding planning, you and your fiance need to make decisions for yourselves that fit your needs and preferences. So if these suggestions don't work for you, figure out what does and go with that. Bottom line, it's your wedding, so you get to decide who is there with you that day. Try not to let anyone take that power away from you, and it will make deciding on your guest list that much easier. Also, once you're able to figure out who you're not inviting to your wedding, it'll be that much easier for you to figure out where the people who come should sit. Lucky for you, we have a video with tips on that, which you can watch by clicking on the video on your screen now. As always, happy planning, and we'll see you next time.